Welcome to the YouTube channel, Stories of Catholic Saints. Today, I will tell you about the story of Saint Pedro Poveda. Now, we begin our story by the event of February 3rd, 1874 in Linares, Jaén Province, Spain, when Mr. José Poveda Montes and María Linarejos Castroverde Merino happily welcomed the birth of their first son. He was given a very long name, Pedro José Luis Francisco Javier Poveda Castroverde. This was the custom of wealthy families in Spain at that time. From the age of 10, he felt a passion for becoming a priest. So, at the age of 15, his family sent him to study at the diocesan seminary in Jaén. When he was 19 years old, after completing the second baccalaureate, his family fell into financial difficulty. I think one of the reasons probably was because his parents had to raise a big family with 6 children. Poveda had to transfer to the Diocese of Guadix, Granada, where he was offered a scholarship by the Bishop of Guadix. During this time, he pursued higher education. On April 17, 1897, he was ordained as a priest. His first Mass was celebrated on April 21, 1897. After that, he began to serve the diocese through many works as the deputy secretary of the bishop, working in some Catholic associations. In 1900, he graduated in sacred theology in Seville and became a professor at the seminary in Guadix until 1905. In April of 1901, Father Poveda was named domestic prelate by Pope Leo XIII. His life at that time was perfect for many people, but Father Poveda was not to feel happy while right next to him there were cave dwellers.
The town of Guadix today is a popular tourist destination. In there, the most popular places were the cave houses. They still keep the primitive look outside, but are luxuriously designed and modern with full amenities on the inside. But in 1902, these caves were home to the poor living at the bottom of society. The town of Guadix at that time seemed to have two worlds. One was full of light and prosperity. On the other side, there were people without employment and education, living in the darkness of the caves. Father Pedro asked the bishop to let him become a priest to care for the inhabitants of those caves. He moved into one of the caves to make his work more convenient. He became known as the priest of the caves. Father Poveda's love for the suffering and poor people was so strong that attracted a lot of people to participate in his work. Many organizations and individuals joined him to help the cave dwellers, knowing that lack of education keeps the cave dwellers trapped in their cycle of poverty. Therefore, Father Poveda wanted to open a school to teach the children of cave dwellers. Building a school needs enormous financial and human resources. It was very difficult to ask for aid in that area. He had to seek help from other regions in Spain, especially the capital Madrid, where he has known some good princes and nobles. Father put his plan in the love and providence of God. Finally, the first school was started. In addition, the construction process encountered many difficulties. Some cave dwellers were skeptical about the realisticness of the project. Despite all these, the school was completed and welcomed new pupils, not only boys but also girls. We should know that in this period, the Spanish societal expectation was women did not need education, and they were supposed to stay home to take care of their family. Then one after another, the Sacred Heart of Jesus schools were born. Father Poveda also established places that provided free meals for poor people, opened evening classes and vocational training classes for adults, as well as small workshops to create jobs. Over time, the city government knew about his works. They gave him the title Excellent Citizen and wanted to name a street by his name. Father Pedro did not care about those frivolous titles. He was worried that they would negatively his plans and works. And yes, by the jealousy and envy of people, many misunderstandings happened. In 1905, he had to leave Guadix, abandoning his works.
In 1906, Father Poveda was appointed parish priest of the Covadonga Cathedral. Covadonga is a mountainous area in northern Spain. The Asturias region. Covadonga means Cave of Our Lady in the local language. It is a famous pilgrimage site. I think his time in Covadonga aimed at preparing him for a greater mission, opening new directions in the church and society of the time. In this time, Spain was at a social and religious crossroad. There was an extreme tendency to remove religious values from education, the dechristianization in education. They believed that faith was completely opposed to science. Father Poveda insisted that faith and science are both necessary to bring the world closer to God's project. He always prays, especially to the Virgin Mary, beside the statue of Our Lady in Covadonga. He realized that in order to change the education system, it was necessary to start from the root. That means training teachers. Therefore, it was urgent to train Catholic teachers with professional qualifications and strong faith. As a result, he created a plan to train and educate Catholic teachers. He wrote many articles and books on this issue, and he looked for opportunities to connect with like-minded persons. The Teresa of Avila Academy was established by Father Poveda in 1911. This was the beginning of the Teresa Association. Father Poveda had a special love and respect for Saint Teresa of Avila, and he felt her support and companionship in all his works. The members of Teresa Association are ordinary people. They participate in the evangelizing mission through the professional works, in educational and cultural fields, and their lives.
In that time, Spanish society did not want to accept women's participation in social activities. On the contrary, Father Poveda paid special attention to the roles of women in the fields of education, culture, and science. In 1914, Father Poveda was appointed parish priest of the cathedral in Jaén. There he worked in different roles, teaching in the seminary, serving as spiritual director of Los Operarios Catechetical Center, teaching at the Teacher Training College. In the same year, he established the first university residence in Spain for women in Madrid. In Jaén, Father Poveda met Sister Josefa Segovia Moron, who was the only woman in Jaén to graduate from the Central Pedagogical College in Madrid. She also collaborated with Father Poveda in conducting and teaching in the Teresa Institutes. Josefa was considered as the co-founder of Teresa Association. She was the first general director of Teresa Association. A gentle personality, however, Father Poveda was firm in his ideas. He convinced many people, even those who were against it, so that the Teresa Institute could expand to many areas of the Spanish territories. And then, the Teresa Society was recognized by the government and the local church. Father Poveda brought a completely different perspective on the role and position of women in Spanish society at that time. If there were many supporters, there were also many voices against him. His dynamism, activism in the field of education, and many other fields made him become a thorn in the eyes of many leaders. Attacks were aimed at him, and his opponents used the press to mislead public opinions. Father Poveda had to give up his role in the Teresa Association, and in 1921, he came to Madrid to work as a chaplain of the Royal Palace. However, he devoted most of his time for the Teresa Association. In 1924, the association was approved by the Holy Pope. In spite of not directly managing the association, he held an important role in consolidating and promoting its mission so that it grew stronger. And the idea of education and humanity always burned within him. He believes that Christians must contribute to society activities to protect basic human values and build a just and united world. His entire life was directed towards helping and educating poor people, especially children. He intended to open schools in poor rural areas. Unfortunately, he did not have enough time to do it.
On July 27, 1936, when Father Poveda had just finished celebrating Mass at his home, he was arrested and taken away by the rebels. Father Poveda always promoted the non-violent spirit. He preferred a gentle and peaceful behavior, and he was ready for martyrdom for his faith. The next morning, July 28, 1936, in front of his persecutors, he identified himself.
I am a priest of Christ.
He died a martyr for his faith. 2 sisters from the Teresa Society found his body with many bullet holes next to the chapel at the Almudena Cemetery. He was then taken to the San Lorenzo Chapel to be buried there.
Pope John Paul II beatified Father Pedro Poveda on October 10, 1993 in Rome and canonized him on May 4, 2003 in Madrid. On the occasion of the 100th anniversary of his birth, UNESCO honored him as a world educator and humanist. Through his life story, we ask ourselves, why was he a priest from a middle-class family, not rich and powerful, able to gather many people from different classes to support such great works? He wrote about 2,600 publications, including articles, magazines, letters and pamphlets on the importance of education.
Many witnesses who had contact and worked with him talked about an inner strength that they feel from him. This strength motivated him to commit himself to his mission despite poor health, material deprivation and stress at work. Where did that inner strength come from? That was from his faith, love and worship of God. He said,
My faith is unwavering, firm and unshakable, and that is why I speak out.
And he gave witness to that faith with his own blood.
Ana Maria Lopez Diaz Otazu, a Catholic scientist, member of the Teresa Society, and a former boarding school for girls in Madrid, wrote about his strong faith.
Eucharist was the center of his life. Whenever he celebrated Mass, his deep reverence, appreciation, and emotion were so contagious that whoever in there felt a special grace.
Father Poveda was always deeply sympathetic to the poor and vulnerable in society.
Winiko, a former cave dweller, and his 3 young friends were then altar servers for Father Poveda. In 1982, Winiko was 80 years old and commented that, "And you, what do you think about Saint Pedro Poveda?"
In my life, I had never met anyone with a heart as beautiful as Father Poveda.
Flavia Paz Velasquez, Father Poveda's biographer, commented on him.
A simple, unassuming man. He cared about the affairs of those around him and took them seriously. He has the ability to explain so that we understand and sympathize with his ideas and concerns, thereby convincing us to work with him voluntarily.
Father Pedro Poveda is an outstanding figure of the Church and humanity due to his contributions to education and humanity and by his life. But what makes me love this saint the most is his self-sacrifice. His love for the poor was shown not only by helping through the poor with materials, but by living among them to sympathize with them and understand them more deeply. He entered the darkness where they were in to try to bring them to light.
Or do you have any stories related to him? Please share them below this video. And if you like this story, please use a thumbs up. And if you don't mind, please subscribe to the channel to support us. Next time, it will be Sister Josefa Segovia's story, a co-founder of Teresa Association.